This video is sponsored by Squarespace. I use Squarespace to publish my landscape photography work online because I like how simple and straightforward their system is. It's super easy for me to just sign into their control panel in my web browser. I can create galleries, I can upload images, I can sort my images into whatever order I want. I can build out custom pages, and I don't have to know anything about design or coding because Squarespace templates are professionally designed. They look great right out of the box. You can use them as is and fill them in with your own content, or you could use Squarespace's new AI website builder, which will ask you a series of questions about your site, what it is you want to accomplish with it, the type of website that you're building, what your favorite colors are, what your favorite typefaces are, what kind of style and look it is that you're going for, and it will build a brand new website for you automatically. And then whenever you're ready to do more with your website, you can add on email newsletters, you can sell digital products and downloads. Whatever type of website it is you're looking to build, head over to squarespace.com/Dominey to sign up for a free 30-day trial. No credit card required, you can test it out for yourself. And then if you decide to keep Squarespace, use my last name, Dominey, as the coupon code to knock 10% off a new website or domain. I get a lot of questions about this display. People want to know, is 4K truly important? Do I really need Adobe RGB in a display? How does it compare to the Apple Studio display? What other options are there out there? Anything cheaper? So in this video today, I'm going to share with you my long-term experience with this display and try and answer as many of these questions as I've been receiving about it. All right, first let's just talk for a minute about the screen itself to make sure we're all on the same page here. This is the SW272U. It is a 27-inch 4K display with a native resolution of 3840 by 2160. This is part of their PhotoView line of monitors. It is a line of monitors that is geared towards photographers, similar to their Design View line, which is geared towards designers. It has an LCD panel with IPS technology, IPS meaning in-plane switching. It is a type of LCD panel, and it has a matte finish. It comes with a matte finish. You don't have a choice between glossy or matte. It just comes with matte, which means you don't have to pay anything extra for it. It also comes with a stand, a height adjustable stand. You can tilt it, you can rotate it, all that good stuff. But there is, of course, a mount on the back. If you don't want to use the stand, you could use it with a monitor arm or however you want to mount it. It provides USB-C connectivity with downstream power, so you could connect this to a laptop and close the lid on your laptop and both use the display through your laptop and power your laptop at the same time, which is good for those of you who, put your laptop into some kind of cradle, connect the USB-C cable, and then disconnect that cable and use your laptop for other things. It does have other ports as well, including HDMI and a display port too, if that is something you'd rather use. It does not come with a webcam. I have my own webcam up here, so that is something extra you would have to buy. The 272U, it comes with one of these. This is a puck. This is a wireless Bluetooth puck. Another improvement they made with this model, it connects over Bluetooth instead of being wired. Basically what this puck allows you to do is switch between your custom calibrated modes in the display. There's a large knob here in the middle, which is intended for things like brightness and volume, but I never use that. I always use these buttons here, 1, 2, and 3. So I'm in 1 right now, and this is a custom calibrated mode using the Adobe RGB color space. And if I click on 2, it's going to switch over to that mode. And this is just the standard black and white mode in the display. And you may be wondering, is this for like editing black and white images? Like, what's this all about? Well, I have this as a mode because sometimes I like to scroll through a catalog of color images and look for potential images for conversion to black and white. You don't need a display like this in order to do it. Your operating system, both macOS and Windows, can do this natively. It's just a little more cumbersome. I just like having the option of, being able to push a button here. Number 3, that is Rec 709. So Rec 709 is the standard color space of HD broadcast television. It is what Adobe Premiere uses by default. It is what DaVinci uses by default. It is the standard color space for video editing. If you don't do any video work, you're not going to care about Rec 709. but that is the color mode I use whenever I do this, whenever I'm editing a video. Now, like other photo view monitors, the SW272U, it supports a variety of color modes, including, as I mentioned, Adobe RGB, sRGB, Rec. 709, DCI-P3, and other color modes as well. And when I say support, what that means is that the video signal of the hardware inside of this display here, it literally changes. I mean, as you can see, when I go from, Adobe RGB over to Rec. 709, it refreshes. It changes the output of the video signal so that the signal only includes the range of colors that are possible within that specific color gamut. So it's not emulation. It's not emulating one color space inside of another, which is something that you get when, you use a different display that only has a single fixed color space. With this, you can change it to the exact color space you want, and then you are working within that color space. It's not, an emulation of any kind. And that's part of the reason why displays like these are more color accurate than your average display, because there's no software emulation going on here. And by the way, speaking of calibration, these displays are calibrated at the factory before they're sent to you. So you can use their Adobe RGB modes, their DCI-P3 modes, their Rec. 709 modes, directly, just right out of the box if you want to, but eventually you will need to calibrate the display. You typically want to calibrate a display like every 4 to 6 months, somewhere around there. And the display will pop up a notification on screen from time to time to remind you that it's time to recalibrate your display. The display, by the way, does not come with a calibrator. You have to buy your own third-party calibrator, and the software that comes with this display, which is called Palette Master Ultimate, it supports a variety of all the major calibrators that are out there. If you're curious to know which one I use, I'll put a link to that down below in the video description. It works perfectly fine with this display and that Palette Master Ultimate software. The color accuracy of the 272U is very good. This is something that is measured in something called delta E. When you see a delta E number in the specification, that is a way of quantifying how accurate the colors are that you see on screen. How accurate, say, red is on screen compared to that same, like Pantone chip, compared to that same red that you would see in the real world. And the closer those are to one another, the lower the delta E value, the less difference there is, the less perceivable difference there is between them. And generally speaking, a number under 3 is considered to be favorable, but under 2 is certainly very good as well. Now, I know some people will argue that color calibration and color accuracy doesn't matter because the rest of the world, they're using phones, they're using laptops, they're using televisions, they're using desktop computers, and most other people do not calibrate their displays. So what is the point of calibrating your own display if everyone else is going to be is going to be using whatever it is that they're using? Well, I totally understand the point. And I think the core point of it is true. The core point is that no matter what you do, you can't control how your images, or your videos for that matter, are going to be seen out there in the real world. There's no way that you can control all the variances and all the possibilities of where your image could be seen. But the more accurate your display is, the better the odds are that your image or your video is going to be seen correctly elsewhere. I mean, think about it. This is why colorists who work on motion pictures, this is why they work in these, very neutral rooms with perfectly calibrated, very expensive displays that they work on, because they want to make sure that the films that they are editing, that they appear consistent and they appear correct on all the different screens and on Netflix and on streaming platforms and on television and everywhere else. But the fact of the matter is, if you are producing any kind of images, videos, design assets for the web or for print or anything else, calibrating your display and having a color accurate display is important. All right, I feel like I've rambled on about, this particular screen for a little bit. So now let me get to your questions about it, including, is it still working? Well, obviously it definitely is. Am I still using it? Yes, I'm absolutely still using it. Am I happy with it? Yes, it has been a great display for me. I have very much enjoyed using it. I don't have any dead pixels on the display. No issues there at all. The one thing that does bother me a little bit from time to time is that this is using an LCD IPS panel. And so there is a little bit of vignette like around the edges and corners of the screen, because there is like a very large white panel behind the screen here. And typically with cheaper displays, with cheaper hardware, you will sometimes see like a little bit of a gap over here and a little bit of light coming through. That is not a problem at all with these BenQ displays. I mean, it is very dark, very exact from corner to corner. No, white glow or anything like that. It's more of just like a little bit of darkening, actually. It's like a little bit of vignette around the outside. And this is the kind of thing that is different with an OLED display. Like with OLED, you don't have that problem. The pixel in the center of your screen is just as bright as the pixel in the corner down here. You also have truer blacks with OLED displays as well, because when an OLED display needs to display black, well, it just turns the pixel off. And that's how it achieves pure black. Whereas with an LCD panel like this, it has to like physically block the light. It has to block the light and prevent it from passing through in order to create a true black. And this is why LCD panels like this, their black is not quite as black. It's not quite as deep as an OLED. It's a little bit softer. But honestly, it's really not the kind of thing you notice, until you put like an OLED screen next to it. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's clearly the OLED screen has a truer black, has a deeper black than this one here. But personally, I don't think that OLED is necessarily better than LCD for photo editing or vice versa. I know some people really love OLED for things like gaming and watching movies and, things like that, because they get a truer black with what it is that they're looking at. And, I could see someone arguing that, OLED is a better technology and LCD IPS is an outdated one and we should all be moving over to OLED. Maybe that's true, but I think for, in the here and now, I've used an OLED display as well. And to me, there isn't that much of a difference between them when it comes to, working on images and videos and things like that. Maybe for other things, OLED would be better, but I don't necessarily feel like I'm missing anything by using an LCD screen. All right, let's talk about 4K. So 4K is a very big topic. People ask me all the time about 4K. People want to know, do you really need a 4K display? And the answer is a little bit yes and a little bit no. Let me talk about no first. So part of the reason why you don't need a 4K display is because most people, and I definitely include myself in this camp, most people do not use their high resolution displays at their native resolution. Again, this is a 3840 by 2160 panel, and I'm just going to change my resolution here to the native resolution. Okay, so that is 3840 by 21. Wow, that is 3840 by 2160. And the user interface is just minuscule. It is tiny. I mean, it is like crammed over here on the right side of the screen. All of the text is super, super small. All the little text inputs and widgets are very difficult to use. Maybe not if you're younger than me and you have better eyes, but it's not a good user experience. Like, it's not fun using 4K on a 27-inch panel like this. Odds are you're going to end up lowering the resolution of the panel in the operating system that you're using, whether that's a Mac OS or Windows. And by the way, the Apple Studio display is a 5K display, and now we're starting to see more companies release 5K displays to compete with the Apple Studio display. And if you buy and use one of those, you're not using the display at 5K, you're using it at 2.5K by default out of the box, or you could, again, change the output resolution of it. So, people like me and others, you buy a 4K display, you use it at 2K. You buy a 5K display, you use it at 2.5K. So why do people buy high resolution displays? Why do we buy these 4K and 5K displays? Well, the entire reason why, or a big reason why, is because of pixels per inch. The higher the resolution a panel is, the more pixels there are literally per inch, that you see on screen. And similar to dynamic range in a camera, the more stair steps you have, the more shades of gray that you have from black to white, the better the image is going to be. When you have more pixels, when you're working with more pixels on screen, details are better, the screen is sharper, text is more legible, small little widgets and icons and things like that, they look better on screen. And I do think you can tell a difference, especially if you use a high resolution camera like I do. When you zoom in on your images and you're able to like view all these crazy details and textures that are in your image, a high resolution display like 4K or 5K is going to give you a better experience in that regard. However, if you are someone who mostly views your images like this, from all the way zoomed out, you're not pixel peeping, you're not jumping in, you're not doing like super detailed textured work, and you prefer having a larger user interface to be working with, and you like to save money, well, you could very easily use a 2K display instead. And by the way, BenQ does now sell, they did not sell this display at the time when I reviewed this. They came out with it later, but now they sell a 2K version of this display that costs nearly half as much, which is a really good deal, I think, because you're getting a high quality display with all the same color modes, all the same features, great color accuracy, and it's more or less the same display as this one here. You just have a lower resolution panel in it and fewer pixels per inch on screen. Personally, I prefer a 4K display, and I think it's worth the extra money for better legibility, better sharpness and clarity with the user interface and everything that you do on screen. It also looks nice when you flip over into 3840 by 2160 and play back 4K footage if you're like streaming something online, or you exported a 4K video from Premiere or DaVinci and you want to view it at the actual pixels. I do think it's worth the money, but if you want to save a little bit of money and color accuracy is more important to you than sharpness and detail and things like that, you could absolutely save some money by getting that other model. So what's the deal with 5K? Why is Apple making 5K displays? Why are other companies, including BenQ, more on that in a minute, why are they following suit and creating 5K displays as well? Well, it comes down to how the macOS operating system works, how it outputs a video signal. That is something that Apple decided to standardize on. They decided on 5K instead of 6K because 5K provides more pixels per inch, which creates an even smoother, cleaner, appearance of text and icons and widgets and everything on screen. And it looks good from, your typical viewing distance when you're, sitting at a desktop and looking at the screen. And that is why companies have been coming out with their own 5K displays, and BenQ recently released one as well. It is a design view 5K displays, which means that it's primarily targeted towards graphic designers, not necessarily, the photography market. Otherwise, they would have a photo view display. And this is the bit of feedback that I've been providing people who've been contacting me, asking me if the 272U is a good buy, like right now. I don't have any insider information on this, but odds are, if BenQ has a 5K design view panel, they're going to make a 5K photo view panel as well. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised it hasn't been released already. I mean, no guarantee it's actually going to come out, of course, but my hunch, and I think it just makes sense logically, that they will eventually come out with a 5K version of this 27-inch panel here. Okay, I feel like this video is going to turn into a fairly long one, but I've received a lot of questions about it. And another question that I've received is Adobe RGB important? Do you really need to buy a display like this one from BenQ that natively supports Adobe RGB? Do you really need it for photo editing? Well, for most people watching this video, I would say the answer is no. The reason why we have Adobe RGB is because back in the day, back in the 90s, when all displays were sRGB, that was the standard that Microsoft came up with, back in the early 1990s, print designers were having trouble because the sRGB color space is smaller than the range of colors that are possible when printing in CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So effectively what Adobe did was they developed their own color space, their own screen color space, which encompassed the same range of colors that a CMYK 4-color printing press could accommodate. And at the time, that was the main reason for it, so that the red, again, that you would see on screen would be, assuming you're using a calibrated display, the red that you see on screen would be similar to that Pantone chip of red that comes off of that CMYK printing press. But in today's modern digital world, I just don't think Adobe RGB is as important today or as necessary today as perhaps it was, a number of years ago. And another reason why that's true is because today there is another color space that you've probably heard of, that being P3. P3 is practically as large as Adobe RGB. Adobe RGB is actually just a slight bit larger and encompasses just a slightly different range of hues. It dips a little bit further into the blues and greens, while P3 includes a little more red and orange in its color gamut. P3 is what, it's what this uses. It's what, tablets, laptops, and most, desktop displays that you buy today, if they're not sRGB, they're going to be P3. And P3 goes by different names. You'll see P3, you'll see Display P3, you'll see DCI P3, but it's all the same. I mean, it's all the same color gamut. So practically speaking, if you mostly view your photos and videos on screen, online, on devices like these, and you make the occasional inkjet print and CMYK conversion of your images, and just working in CMYK in general, if that's not something you typically do or do ever, then you don't necessarily need, in my opinion, you don't necessarily need Adobe RGB, especially because we have the P3 color space today. So these BenQs here, they support both P3 and Adobe RGB. You can work in either one. I choose to work in Adobe RGB, but I could easily work in P3 just the same. Quite honestly, I could probably switch this over into sRGB if I really wanted to, because the range of hues in my images, the saturation levels of the colors in my images, I don't typically go beyond the range that is possible within sRGB. And I know that some people actually prefer just working in sRGB because sRGB is what most of the internet still uses. Unfortunately, I think that's eventually going to change, and everything is going to be, changing over into P3, especially because so many of us are accessing, the web using devices like these. In case you don't know, if you were to upload, an image to Squarespace or to Facebook or to, Instagram or whatever, and they create a new version of it, a new optimized version of it, they convert it to sRGB. That's what everyone's been doing for like years and years and years now. But I think eventually we're going to get beyond that, hopefully, and make the change over to P3. And I know some people just, they like working in sRGB because of that. But personally, for me, I like working in the largest color space that I'm able to work in, partially because ProPhoto RGB is the native color space of Lightroom. I edit in ProPhoto RGB in Adobe Photoshop. ProPhoto RGB is kind of like a theoretical color space. It's not like a real tangible color space. You can't go out and buy like a ProPhoto RGB display, at least, not right now, but it is the largest color space that you can be working in. And similar to resizing an image, it's better to go down than limiting yourself and having to, hit some kind of boundary and, going back up again. So even if you have no intention of using either Adobe RGB or P3, and you're perfectly happy using sRGB, you prefer using sRGB perhaps, is there any tangible benefit of having a display like this that has all these different color modes in it, etc.? The main benefit, the main thing is color accuracy. At the end of the day, we can talk all day about color spaces, color gamuts, volume, all that kind of stuff. And, we could get really nerdy and really technical about it, but at the end of the day, the thing that is most important is the accuracy of what it is that you're seeing on screen compared to the output, compared to your print, compared to your photo being on this phone, compared to your photo being wherever it is that it's being displayed. You always want to make sure that the colors that you see on screen are accurate and you can trust what it is that you're seeing on screen. That is something that used to drive me crazy when I used to edit on an iMac. I had like an old 27-inch iMac a number of years ago, and I could never, ever trust, even when I calibrated it, I could never trust that what it was that I was seeing on screen was true and was accurate, because it just wasn't, it's not that kind of display. It's just not made for that type of work. Whereas a more specialized display like this, which is designed for photography, the photo view monitors or the design view ones, which are designed for designers, that is what they are made for. They prioritize color accuracy so that you are able to work more efficiently, you're able to trust what you're seeing on screen, and you get better results when you make prints or whatever it is that you're doing with your images or your videos. Now, one more important thing that I want to share with you here before I let you go. But before I do, if this video has been helpful to you, please do me a favor and give this video a thumbs up down below. I would greatly appreciate it. It would help expose this video to more people. Only takes a second, won't cost you a thing, and I would appreciate it. So we need to talk about ICC profiles. Now, an ICC profile is a file that lives locally in your macOS or Windows operating system, and it is used whenever you output an image to something, or your user interface of the operating system is output to your display. It is used when you make a print. Like when you make a print, you always want to make sure that you select the right ICC profile for your printer and paper, right? It's how it works. And it's the same thing with screens like this BenQ here. You want to make sure that you're using the proper ICC profile with it. And with older BenQ displays, this is something that used to drive me a little bit crazy, because whenever I switched from, say, Adobe RGB to Rec 709 or to sRGB, I would have to remember to go into my display settings in the operating system and change the ICC profile to match. Because if there's a mismatch, if the wrong ICC profile is currently assigned, well, the colors aren't going to be right, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of having a color accurate display, right? So BenQ did something clever with the newer versions of Palette Master Ultimate with their screen calibration software. Now Palette Master Ultimate runs in the background continuously in macOS and Windows, and it detects whenever you switch from one calibrated mode to another, and automatically changes the ICC profile that your operating system is currently using to match. Or at least that's how it's supposed to work. It can be a little bit flaky in my experience. When I first started using this display, it was rock solid. It changed all the time. Then like a few months later, it just kind of stopped. It just stopped, switching the ICC profile. And it wasn't something that I noticed until like one day. I was like, why do these colors look weird? And I realized it was a mismatch. My ICC profile was not correct. It's like I had like Rec 709 assigned in my operating system, but my display was using Adobe RGB. Over time, this has improved. Like if I switch now to Adobe RGB, you can see maybe you weren't able to see it on video, but there was a slight change in the display here, and that was it switching the ICC profile in system preferences. Now it's a little bit weird because if I look at it right here, it shows Rec 709. It appears that nothing has changed. But if I close out my preferences and then open it back up again, go back to displays, I see Adobe RGB. So it did it correctly. And that is because Palette Master Ultimate is continuously running in the background. Now what can happen sometimes is that Palette Master Ultimate, it may quit, it may not launch properly, it may just silently quit in the background. And if that software is not running in your operating system, it's not gonna switch your ICC profile when you switch from one calibrated mode to another. Will this matter to you if you only use one calibrated mode? No, this is only going to affect the weirdos like me, I guess, who use more than one calibrated mode on their BenQ displays. If you edit both photo and video, or maybe maybe you have modes for different things, like maybe you have a mode for the D50 white point if you're making prints and you want both D65 and D50. I'm getting rather deep into the technicals here, but some people like that. Some people like having different calibrated modes for different things. But the point here is that anytime you change a calibrated mode on here or on screen on the menu here, you kind of have to keep a close eye on Palette Master Ultimate and your ICC profiles in your operating system to make sure that the proper ICC profile was actually switched to. So it's not quite as foolproof as, as I would like, but it is definitely better than it was with older BenQ displays in the past. Overall, the SW272U for me has been a solid performer. I think it is. I think it's a great display. I enjoy using it. I get good results out of it. And when I say results, I mean that I get good, consistent results whenever I make a print. And I compare that print to what it is that I'm seeing on screen. They are very close to one another, and I feel like I can trust the colors that I see on screen. And trust is one of the most important things, when it comes to editing images and editing videos on a desktop display. And I think value-wise, yes, it is, it's kind of a pricey display. I mean, especially compared to like your average monitor, you can just go down to Costco and buy or whatever. But with that, you're getting a highly color accurate display with a matte finish, a height adjustable stand, and you don't have to pay extra for these things like you do through Apple. I enjoy 4K. I don't think 4K is completely necessary. I think if you're on a budget and you want to spend less, the 2K model would be a perfectly reasonable substitute for this. And I am eager to see what comes in the future. I hope that BenQ comes out with a 5K photo view display. I think that would be really interesting. I think that'd be really cool to check out and see what the next evolution of the photo view displays are. But in general, again, it's been really good for me. And if you have any questions about it, if there's anything more you want to know, feel free to reach out to me and I'll be happy to answer your questions. That's it. Thanks so much for being here, everyone. I will see you in the next one.